So, economiccollapseblog.com, Mr. Michael Steiner, has a little article, something I think about, as a matter of fact, all the time. You know, we got to go liberate all these countries. Well, you know, certain countries that have certain interests, like in oil and things, when we need to build a pipeline or that kind of thing. Well, where there's countries that really need help, you know, Haiti. Didn't we raise $1 billion? The Clintons, we helped raise $1 billion, and the people got like none of it. You know, that's another story. But Venezuela, we put sanctions on them. People are starving to death. I mean, literally starving to death, fighting each other, fighting with the police. I mean, it's out of control over there right now. It's like, you know, practically a war. It's almost there. I mean, the people aren't shooting yet, but 30-something of them have been shot by the government thus far, recently. But he's got this article here. Global collapse. Children are literally starving to death in Venezuela and Yemen. Now, see, Yemen's not one we hear about too often. But it was on the list of Lindsey Williams' countries we had to overthrow and install the Muslim Brotherhood in, that he said would happen. Egypt, Yemen, Libya, Syria, then Saudi Arabia. So he says Venezuela and Yemen were both once very prosperous nations, but now parents are literally watching their children starve to death as the economies of both nations continue to utterly collapse. Just like so many here in the United States, most of those living in Venezuela and Yemen would have called you completely crazy. See, this is the part that I'm about to see, just this little part, is why I'm actually doing this video. This is really why I'm doing this. Because it's the mindset of, well, this is America. That can't happen here. That's never happened here in America. Never happened here in America. That's a third world country. Well, there wasn't a third world country. It just recently became one. Okay? But here's the thing. Just like so many here in the U.S., most of those living in Venezuela and Yemen would have called you completely crazy if you would have warned them that this was going to happen 5 years ago in their country. Oh, get out! You're out of your mind. We're taking our gold back. We've got not Maduro. What was his name? Hugo Chavez, the then president. Life is beautiful here. We're partying in the streets. Da 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 da. Yeah, baby. Yemen, we're up and coming in the world. We got oil reserves, a little bit of oil here, you know. They didn't know. Of course, they did not know there was a plan to overthrow their government by the United States. Blaming it on, you know, people had enough of their government and they've overthrown it and we're going to help them. No, actually, the people there aren't doing that at all. But anyways, that's Yemen. And of course, as you know, Saudi Arabia is bombing Yemen left and right now. No bombing in Venezuela, which is odd to me, right? Because they have like the largest known reserves, you know, at least on paper, of oil reserves. How the hell are we not over there bombing the hell out of that place? I mean, I guess it's too difficult. Well, we could easily go with that story in the Middle East because we got so much going on over there. We can just sneak in and add them to the list. But Venezuela, South American country, it'd be hard to pull off. Or would it? Again, when people are starving, we got to go help them. We got to go help them, man. It's kind of odd, isn't it, for Venezuela? But anyways, they would have called you crazy just 5 years ago if you would have told them that 5 years ago. Which is why people still think guys like me and a lot of you are crazy. Because we can see this coming from a mile away. And we come out here, we do these videos to say, look, here's an example of Venezuela. Here's one in Argentina. Here's what's happening over in France. Here's what's happening in this country, Ukraine, when that happened, etc. Oh, but this America can't happen here. Says who and why? Why can't it happen here? Someone tell me why it just absolutely, unequivocally cannot happen here. I'm all ears. I mean, seriously. In particular, Venezuela has more proven oil reserves than almost anyone else on the planet. And so to most of their citizens, it was unimaginable. Not only to them, their citizens, but how about me as an American citizen? It's unimaginable to me, too, that things could ever get this bad over there. You have a massive pool of oil. You could undercut the entire oil cartel, including OPEC too. Notice how I separate the oil cartel from OPEC. Two different entities. You could undercut all of them, and everyone's going to want to do business with you. It's all oil. We know it's the same everywhere, right? It's not like we get a better grade oil. No, it's all the same. You're gas and diesel, we got you covered. We're going to give you cheaper than anyone else on the face of the earth will give you oil for, which would cause a lot of problems. Obviously, in other countries, they might see that as a direct conflict. But again, you would just argue this is a free market. We're not trying to harm anyone economically. It's a free market. And since this is all we do over here in our country, we've got to really work on those oil prices if we want to survive as a country. So while we're not trying to harm anybody else economically, we got to do what's right for our people. And you got to do what's right for your people. But instead, that's not what we have. The facilities are rotting. They're breaking. The personnel that work there are leaving and fleeing. Some of the country's militia or National Guard has come in a few times and tried to take over. We're going to take over. You're going to take over an oil facility, a refinery? Good luck. Were you trained? Are you skilled? Nope. But the president said to come over here, so we're going to. Oh, well, good. I'll see you guys later. Have a nice day. So anyways, so no one you could have told these people 5 years ago that this was going to happen. And secondly, as he says, in particular, Venezuela has more proven oil reserves than almost anyone else on the planet. And so to most of the citizens, it was unimaginable that things could ever get this bad. But it has happened, and the collapse that has already begun in parts of South America, right? Not just Venezuela, Africa, and the Middle East will soon spread elsewhere. When I said that children are literally starving to death in Venezuela, I was not exaggerating one bit. The following comes from the Wall Street Journal. Jean-Pierre Planchard, a year-old, has the drawn face of an old man and a cry that is little more than a whimper. His ribs show through his skin. He weighs just 11 pounds. His mother, Maria Planchard, tried to feed him what she could find, combing through the trash, scraps of chicken or potato. She finally took him to a hospital in Caracas where she prays a rice milk concoction keeps her son alive. Quote, I watched him sleep and sleep, getting weaker, all the time losing weight, she said. She's just 34 years old. I never thought I'd see Venezuela like this. And that's what all your friends and family and neighbors, co-workers, everybody who doesn't understand what's happening like you do, that's how they're going to feel should something like that come here. And again, why shouldn't it come here? We use 25% roughly of the world's output resources right here in America. Yet we are a few specks of sand in a bucket full of sand, other countries, other places on planet Earth, so to speak. And that's just going to continue. The world's going to continue taking our strong dollar, US dollar, put your money into the dollars. This is the end game scenario where all fiat currencies go bust. And so what if ours is last? So what if ours is last? You got major problems with the euro. You've got the Le Pen presidential election deal going on tomorrow, which is the day you're going to see this video. So later today, the vote in it, right? 6th, 7th. It's supposed to be the 7th, I thought, right? I'm quite certain of it. French election, May 7th, right? Just double check before I misspeak. I misspoke. Jason up before misspoke. As French elections near, so does a step into the unknown. New York Times, 1 hour ago. Sunday's critical presidential standoff, etc. What was the other one? Which one did I talk about? French election turning points in roller coaster race. And they're telling the news media because her opponent, who got the stamp of approval the other day by Obama came to, politic for him, tell the French people basically pick Macron. But then breaking news comes out about this shyster. And no, I'm not talking about Obama, that's a shyster. I'm talking about Macron, this shyster. And he's got his Cayman Islands and these other bank accounts being exposed. He's laundering money or something, you know. But at very least, I'm not 100% sure about the money laundering, but the offshore accounts and all that, it's being exposed. It was leaked. And the government saying, all you news agencies, you can't report on this because it'd be given an unfair advantage to his opponent, Ms. Le Pen. Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute. He already got an unfair advantage. The former president of the United States came over here and told everyone to vote for this guy, basically. Gave him a stamp of approval. He didn't do that for the opponent, Ms. Le Pen. So that's not fair. Why did the news agencies report that? Right? You know what I want to see Sunday? Which, again, is today, now that you're seeing this. An absolute blowout. The polls said that, the polls again, mainstream media in France, the polls said, and that'll be 2 times in a row, the polls said, and it didn't happen. And I'll tell you now, at that point forward, it's game over for the elite, the club, everything that they try to put in front of us as news and polls, and this person's ahead, it'll never be believed again. It's already done in our country. We're already past that. But the rest of the world's going to now see, oh, wait, that happened in America and it happened in France? Oh, my gosh, these tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists were right all along. But there is the chance that she won't win tomorrow. Of course. But a perfectly timed leak of this shyster and his offshore bank accounts, is that who you want leading your country, folks? Absolutely not. She's the Donald Trump of France, as I've said all along. She should win. Theoretically, but we will see. Now, unless you turn on the TV, then she shouldn't win. You know, odds have him in favor. So anyways, to continue this article, he says, what would you do if that was your child? Barely clinging to life, had to run to the hospital to give him, what was it, rice milk? What would you do if that was your child? At one time, Venezuela had the brightest outlook out of all the economies in South America. At one time. But now their economy has contracted by a total of 27% since 2013. Imports of food have fallen 70%. And the IMF says that the inflation rate will hit a staggering 720% this year. Does anyone remember? And let me see if I can find this on my my channel by searching. It had to have been Maduro. I think I remember doing the video, and Maduro asked citizens to start growing a garden. Let me just see if anything comes up under Maduro. Nope, not there. Venezuela. I just want to see if I happen to have this. I've got quite a few videos on Venezuela, if I don't mind saying so myself. Hyperinflation. More bad news for Venezuela. Citibank will keep $1 billion worth of Venezuela's gold. Scenes from the Venezuela apocalypse. Hungry Venezuelans hunt dogs, cats, pigeons. Collapsing Venezuela is out of food. Venezuela devalues currency by 37%. That was last year, over a year ago. February. Venezuela prepares for 720% hyperinflation. February 4th, 2016 also. Yeah, I don't see the right title, but I do remember, I'm quite certain I did a video. Maduro says, for the people, to help with the crisis, start growing like food in a garden. That's not what people on welfare do, Mr. Maduro. They sit back and say, I'm owed this, you owe it to me, and I want it. And if I don't get it, we're going to start tearing the gates down and come after you. People don't really like taking responsibility for their own well-being, of course, and especially in a country where things were taken away from you rapidly, to where if you even wanted to decide to take some initiative and start helping myself and growing my own food, etc., 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 number one, a lot of these people live in these little shanties. Where are they even going to grow their food? It's not going to happen, right? Back porch and a couple pots, right? But anyways, I remember talking about that because it was funny to me that none of this is actually funny, but that the president's solution to the food problem, hey, everybody start growing your own food. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. The economy's fine. The dollar's not going to go down any further. The Venezuelan bolivar, as they call it. But start growing some food. It might help us out in the near future. Yeah, you could bet. Tonight, in major cities all across Venezuela, you will find thousands of people rummaging through garbage looking for food. It has been reported that some citizens have even resorted to eating cats, dogs, and pigeons because they are so desperate for something to eat. According to one survey, among those that said that they lost weight last year, well, that was probably everybody, the average amount lost was a staggering 19 pounds. In the United States, that would be a good thing. I think I've mentioned that before. We kind of need something like that over here. But in a country like Venezuela, that is an absolutely catastrophic, that is a catastrophic number. Meanwhile, thousands of children are starving to death in Yemen as well. Eyes half open and sunken deep into their sockets, little Jamalia Ali Abdu already looked half dead for most of her 12-day stay at the Hodeidah clinic, too weak to resist the march of disease and hunger in her war-battered country. The child's tiny frame was swathed in a bright green shroud and lowered by sobbing relatives into a dusty grave on Tuesday. Wherever America goes, baby, wave that flag and shout USA. But you're saying, what are you talking about? We're not in Yemen. Then how did I know 4 to 5 months in advance of all those countries being taken over by the Muslim Brotherhood that it was going to happen and that we, America, would be behind it, behind the scenes? Again, it's called a proxy war. I'll put my guy over here. It's like playing checkers or chess, but you don't see my hand or who the hand's connected to. You just see the piece moving, and that piece moving is actually Saudi Arabia fighting with Yemen. And I heard the other day, Saudi Arabian so-and-so from there, to represent the UN women's rights on the UN panel. It had to be onion fake, but it wasn't. I'm afraid to tell you, it is absolutely real. Human rights. That's the women's human rights, Wow. Ooh. The United Nations warns that a child under 5 in Yemen dies around every 10 minutes from preventable causes such as starvation, disease, poor sanitation, or lack of medical care. UN Chief Antonio Guterres warned last week of the starving and the crippling of an entire generation. Nearly 17 million of Yemen's 28 million people are deemed food insecure by aid groups, and around 7 million do not know where they will get their next meal. Even though you may not believe it right now, what is happening in Venezuela and Yemen is going to happen in the U.S. someday as well. So instead of using this time of relative stability for the U.S. economy to party, I would be using it to prepare, he says. And I'm Jason M4, and I totally approve that message. Take care.